Hello again. What room am I in? I guess this is the room in which there's a computer and a whiteboard. It's pretty weird, nondescript way from getting from the lounge room to the kitchen to outside to the laundry. Wow, what an opener. See, I was just thinking about how I haven't done a video for the last couple of days, and how that the energy uh, dropped out again, and that's not surprising at all. The fact that I would have any reaction to it seems to fly in the face of all experiences I've ever had and taken notice of. Now, not to throw any negativity on that experience whatsoever, but I'm taking into account that I went ahead and acknowledged that I was doing a thing, and that I was doing it in a regular sense, as in with repetition, and then suddenly and on cue, my ability to do the thing had changed. I had acknowledged the thing and thus lost control of the thing. Now, when I think about that in a state of conscious flow, whenever I'm deeply embedded in this reality, for lack of a better word, I don't have those observational thoughts flowing through my head, cogging around, identifying my world, and putting words to that experience. Those thoughts take up a lot of like physical energy and time, and that's often the place I'm in when I'm in a rut, bouncing from one thing to another and achieving no practical anything. On the flip side of that, when I work into a space where I am in a harmonic state with my surroundings and being very connected to what I'm doing, whether it be washing the dishes or playing with my daughter or working on, a project or cleaning the house, whatever. That's this magical flow state where it's this unbroken state of consciousness where thoughts aren't there. The thoughts are manifested instantly. Like this world around us being a construct of thought. Once you start thinking about it, you set another abstraction away from being a part of that thought. So once I'm in these flow states, I remember one time taking notice that my hands were acting as if they were thought. Where they moved, there was no need to identify them as tools of my body anymore. That it feels as though that principal space of experience that sits here, we're usually seated here just behind our eyes, had moved into the hands and used the language of hands to communicate with this world around us. And so I think about this in this recent experience of dropping out, and there's been a lot of dropouts and ins and outs and everywheres. This is happening at both an increasing rate of shift in perspective and in increasing depth of experience in those shifts, because I've been hitting like a lot of lows recently that are just uh, they got to be the lowest. I don't know. There's some very, very, very heavy experiences going on that get me to the point where I just expect, reality to melt away, and total form to change to some kind of alien landscape. Who knows? But the onflows are equally pronounced. I mean, I think I'm bouncing around these things as an educational process in itself. I mean, this experience is just like one big, very very inspired communication system. But I'm learning to appreciate what this flow state is, and how acknowledgement of one's experience changes so drastically the position in which we are seated in that experience. So how the hell do I live without acknowledgement? Well, the fact that it is even a problem in the beginning says a lot about a lot of early experiences I must have had, as a child, where I guess I didn't get acknowledged in my thoughts and actions as I felt I needed to, and that carry on and built up to the point where it's so infused into my identity that it's a subconscious system now that breaks down my experiences and my actions, and funnels my behavior in such a way that it brings to the surface that need for acknowledgement. And so that stems all the way to self-acknowledgement. Now, self-acknowledgement is not self-empowerment, self-actualization in the sense that I'm experiencing it here. I'd suggest that it's that total break of flow state where once we're in flow and just acting as we are without the need to identify it, it's this sense of confidence in that, not in a egoic sense of accomplishment with the cerebral pats on the back, but just the uninterrupted will. It's not so weak that it needs to check on itself and check that everything's okay and it's doing it the right way, and that it needs to do it this way, and please, oh God, acknowledge me, tell me that I'm doing it right. No, it's got none of that's in there. And so why am I asking for acknowledgement in my actions? It stems back to obviously a very core ideal that was infused into me, that to be acknowledged is to exist, but that is actually the counteract to my existence. So I'm just freestyling this out right now. This is a partial flow state. And the more things connect, the more words flow into one another, and the articulation grows. Now, again, as I acknowledge that there is actually a growth in articulation, I'm abstracted once again from that flow state to a degree. So the question again, how do we live outside of the need for self-recognition through that acknowledgement of those KPIs, if you will? What was it stand for? Key progress indicator, something like that. Perpetually measuring our choices, no matter how finite. I just want to make some videos and put them up online and just do that. Get to the point where that's ticked off the list in terms of things that I don't have to think about anymore. Because the act of thinking and measuring and identifying and judging and it's this recursive pain that drags me right out of actually living the experience that we think there's living. And I look around and see people that find success in what they do, and their skills manifest in such a way that it suggests that they are not constantly checking to see if they exist. They're constantly checking to see if what they do is acknowledged, not within themselves. Even if they run around with a heightened ego and look for acknowledgement outside, the fact that they're actually expressing what they're doing in a form that actually perpetuates who they are in a mostly positive manner suggests that they're not doing that internally. That is some sort of system that is now automate in them that they can move on in such a way that, in the same way, if I was completely aware of each and every muscle fiber that attached to old limbs and suddenly had to think about how to control those, I'd probably be a jellyfish mess. But those systems are automated in such a way that they're abstracted, so I can walk somewhere and lift something and turn my head, instead of thinking about the atomic structure of how that all happens. And so it's the same in which I just experience life, that I'm often dissembling things that probably exist on the macro for many, and have become micro for me, and it's just too much. There's no room for anything else. And thus that's where those behavior patterns come out, where I'll set myself up with all sorts of grandiose ideas and enact them enough to a point where I check myself, where I look into myself for acknowledgement. Look in or look out, I do both of those, but I think a large part here is the internal mechanism. And as soon as that acknowledgement happens, oh wow, you better believe events unfold in such a way that they just cause a fucking house fire. And this is the thing, I mean, this influences the shape and events in our life. When I have a positive stream, I often see positive events manifest around me, and there's no mysticism to it. I mean, it's very real, testable physics of consciousness. The gravity that we enact in our actions is very real, and the counter to that is very real too, because as I'm seeing, I'm having this seesaw effect in much of what I do, and the more I seesaw, the more data I have to measure to find out what the mechanism is in the first place. So will all this come good? Will the mental hell that I endure come good? Yeah, probably. Yeah, potentially. I don't know. I don't know. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the point is not knowing, and thus alleviating myself of that need to know, of that constant measurement to the other states outside of the eternal moment. Did I solve anything in this video? I don't know. Did you find this interesting from your own insight out there, my casual observer? Maybe I'm observing this via another one of yous, being me, going collecting the quantum data. Who knows? I don't know. That is the fun part, right? That should be fun. Get some fucking joy in the very act of just experiencing this without having some sort of measurable point. I mean, the whole point is to get to an experience that you don't have any reference to measure, because to have a reference to measure suggests that you've already experienced it, yeah? So that's my little goal here, is to get out of that already experienced field that's going around and around and around, going like, hey, remember this behavior pattern? Here we go again. Whee! Yeah, it gets fucking boring. So yeah, this state of the unobserved self. Don't think about it. Bye.